Thanks for tuning in. This is my first review, hopefully my last, but I noticed that several manufacturers did a refresh of the X570 chipset, and I started to see X570s chipsets come out. So I saw Gigabyte, I saw MSI, ASRock, and I was intrigued. I'm coming from I had the MSI Godlike, and I had the Gigabyte Extreme. The Godlike used a chipset fan, the Extreme didn't. All the new X570s chipsets are passively cooled, so they're not using a fan. And that, who cares? I don't really care if they have a fan, but I know some people would think that there's less maintenance. What I wanted was, I also noticed that they added another NVMe slot, and I was in dire need. So I did pick up the X570s Master. I want to take you through my experience and then talk about it for just a moment. So let me start with my setup here. I've got the new Corsair K100 keyboard. Works just fine. And then the Nexus IQ is something that I added to the keyboard here. And that gives me, well, you can use it as you want to, but I use it just to kind of see, some performance information that I'm interested in with my system here. But this is highly customizable. And then I've got the MX. I think this is the third one. So MX Master here, wireless keyboard. Moving along, I sit quite a ways from my television, my monitors here. So it's about 20 feet. So got the 65-inch panel here. This is LG OLED. That one's at 120 hertz, and that's the G-Sync VRR system here. So that's a really nice monitor. And then I've got an 85-inch here. This is just a 4K LCD. And well, it serves its purpose. So down here, and you guys, I gotta apologize for my wire management. I'll clean this up at some point. I do a lot of. I just moved, and I've been adding things and customizing things and trying to figure out how I want my speakers to be. So I'll get all that fixed later. But here's my chassis. This is a Cosmo 700, I think M, and this is a full tower chassis, so it's big. It's big and it's heavy. You see, it's got some handles on the top here. I'm not sure if this is going to be a permanent place for it. It's just where I have it right now. So I really like this chassis. When you open it up, and it opens right up, just pop it open. And in here is where we have this X570. So I've already hooked it up. I didn't want to fiddle with things with you guys and embarrass myself. So in there, I've got the X570 S or Eros Master hooked up. And you can see it back there. It's a really a nice system. And as I mentioned, my motivating factor was I wanted some additional M.2 slots. And so this one has 4. I've got them all fully occupied. So I've got a Samsung 980 NVMe on the top. Right now that thing is running at about 60 degrees. I think that's kind of high, but that's a Gen 4 NVMe, so those run pretty hot. And I've got the Fire Cuda, and I've got the Corsair. Those are both Gen 4, and then I've got a third one. I think that's an HP. That's a Gen 3. That one is attached to the chipset. So one of the great things here is this does have 4 NVMe's built into it. That's more than the Godlike. That's actually more than the Extreme, even though this is technically a lower model than the Extreme. It has more NVMe, but it does have some compromise. So you've got 4 NVMe slots, but when you use them, particularly if you use, you can use one with no compromise. When you add a second and a third, you start to lose some of your SATA connections. So you lose 2 SATA connections. When you add the fourth, you actually lose the PCI slot on the bottom. And I think most people don't actually use those PCI slots. I was thinking about adding a Thunderbolt card. And so for me, that's a disadvantage. But, I think that's going to be the drawback with the X570. I'm looking forward to the next chipset or the next CPU. So I think the X570s is great, but I start to see that there's some compromises when you have it, when you're fully utilizing it. Um, so beyond that, what I've got here is I do actually have another NVMe in this enclosure, and this one is connected via USB-C, so it does slow down a little bit via USB-C connection. It gets me about 650 megahertz transfer, but it doesn't sustain that speed, and that is much slower than all the other NVMe drives that I have that are connected via NVMe. I've got the 3090. That's a really tough GPU to get, of course, but I think these days you can get them now. You could probably walk up to Micro Center and get them, but I think their prices are marked up. I would, frankly, I would probably go with the 3080 over a 3090, just because of the cost of performance that you're getting. And then I've got here a Blu-ray drive, which I don't think I've ever used this. There's a movie in here, but I don't remember watching that. Yeah, that's strange. But yeah, I've got here a Blu-ray drive, connected 4K drive. I have the 3090, of course. I've got four G-Skill DDR4 sticks. These are running XMP at 3600. I'm not sure what the timings are, and they're all 16 gig sticks. So I've got 64 gigs of RAM. Really overkill for what I do. So, and then I've got the Kraken 360 AIO, and that LCD is attached to that. So that's also highly customizable, but I've got it kind of showing my CPU load time. And then there's the 360 fans there on the top. And then I've got several other fans. These are Corsair RGB fans on the side here. I don't know if those are visible. These are also highly customizable, but I don't like a lot of lighting. I guess you can't tell, but I don't like a lot of lighting in my chassis. So I don't really mess with the lighting a lot. But those are there. I've got another Samsung SSD here on the top. I don't know if you can see that, so I'm gonna turn on some lights for you guys. Oh, can't turn on flash right now. Okay. All right. And then I've got several other SSDs down here, and of course my power supply. That's also Corsair. So I've got a lot of Corsair stuff, and mainly I like the IQ software that controls it. And I don't like having a bunch of different monitoring software on my computer. So I try to stick with Corsair, but I've used Thermaltake. I've used some of the other ones, and I like Corsair. That power supply is digital, so it gives you a lot of feedback, about your power draw, and it gives you some, data analytics if you're interested in that kind of thing. So that's the X570. Again, my thoughts are it's a great board. For me, I was coming from the Godlike and the Extreme, and to be honest, I think those are both better. But those are both $700 boards, and this is 380. And cost wasn't what drove me, but for me, I was trying to add another M.2. In hindsight, maybe the better option would be to add an expansion card. The concern there is when I had that set up with the Godlike, I was splitting my lanes to the GPU. So I thought this would be a better option, but there's just too many compromises. And then also worth noting here is the chipset. Right now it's on idle. I don't know if you can see that, but I'll read it to you. It's about 65C, and it's 4% load. So that seems very high. I think that's unacceptable. But I haven't seen any throttling or any shutting down. So it seems to operate just fine at that temperature. I know the Extreme ran at 50C idle, so that's about 15 degrees more. And then on load, the Extreme wouldn't go more than 60 or so degrees. I've seen this hit about 80. So those are really high temps for the chipset. They're trying to go silent without a fan, but I'm not sure if that's working well. But nonetheless, I do have an NVMe card connected directly to the chipset, so I'm sure that's going to add some heat. So I'm going to have to explore this some more to understand what's going on. For now, I definitely think it's a good value if you're in the market for an X570. When I, did my research, this is what I thought was the, most equipped option. But certainly it's not worth going trading. For me, going from the Extreme to this, the Extreme definitely was built better. Same VRM, but a better build. So they did steal the VRM from the Extreme and put it on the X570s Master. So that's great. That's a good value considering the Extreme is $300 more, and it's using the same VRM. But the Extreme is still an 8-layer PCB. This is a 6. The Extreme still does have 10G LAN built into it. This is 2.5, but I really don't know anyone that's using 10Gs. Whew, that's fast. So that's from my perspective irrelevant. And the Extreme does have a dual BIOS, which I think that's good for troubleshooting. And this is a single BIOS, but so there's some compromises. Here, what you do have is the 4 NVMe, and that was what drove me to pick it up. If you're an Extreme owner saying, "Oh, I want 4 NVMe," I would just recommend getting an expansion card. But if you're in the market today and you're looking for a motherboard, I'm not sure that any of those benefits of the Extreme are worth $300. So that's my thoughts on the X570S Master. Thanks for tuning in, guys.